Hafa day, everyone. Good afternoon. Welcome back. We're here for the GVB Roundtable. The time now is 3:04 p.m. Today is Friday, July 14, 2023. For the record, in accordance with open government law, notices for this hearing were sent out on the 7th and again on the 12th, and were published on our Guam Legislature's website. Thank you again to my Vice Chair for being here, Senator Jesse Lujan, Senator Tello Taitagui, and Senator Joanne Brown. Before we proceed, I'd like to again reiterate the rules of engagement. Please, if you have any written testimony, give it to our legislative staff. And if you would like to speak, please state your name for the record. Questions and comments should be confined to the nature of this agenda, which concerns the reconciliation of GVB's Enabling Act and agency bylaws. The chair will invite individuals who have signed up to provide comments, and again, state your name for the record. This is the second roundtable in a series that we are having for the GVB Enabling Act and bylaws that govern its operation. For those of us who are here and those who are watching the live stream of this roundtable, again, we have the team from GVB and we have the board members who are here today. At a legislative oversight hearing held a few months ago, we were informed that at the request of management, the Bureau's legal counsel undertook a thorough review of GVB's enabling statute and bylaws. There's no doubt that this was due, at least in part, to internal events at GVB over the past year, especially the estrangement between the board and the management. Efforts to update, improve, and align with current industry best practices, the decades-old legislation that created GVB, and the bylaws that govern its operation cannot ignore what has transpired between the folks at GVB and our board over the past year. So it also cannot ignore the spillover effect this has had on our industry. GVB exists to help nourish and support and help sustain our tourism industry. So I believe that it's imperative that we have a very robust Visitors Bureau, free from external political interference and internal discord, and trust that all of us here today can agree on. So from the start of this process back in April, the committee requested for GVB to provide details of its side-by-side analysis of 12 GCA Chapter 9 enabling law and the second current GVB bylaws. We look forward to GVB's presentation on this review, which touches on various policies, including but not limited to the exercise of and corporate powers assigned to the board, delegation of authority and control of the business and affairs of the corporation from management to the board, voting requirement for board resolutions, the keeping and maintaining of accounts and financial transactions, the board's fiscal authority relative to budget and plan approvals, and purchase order approval authority for expenditures, financial disclosure by elected board members, compliance to the open government law, and the process of amending the GVB bylaws. During the April 14, 2023 roundtable discussion, GVB management supported the idea of amending the existing bylaws rather than making changes to its enabling law, a process that was stated could take months, if not years, to complete. On the other hand, the GVB board represented that a thorough review of the enabling law is needed and that changes should be made going forward. While our collective efforts these past couple of months have understandably been focused on typhoon recovery, the committee finds it necessary to receive an update from GVB and industry stakeholders relative to specific amendments policymakers should consider to the enabling law. The committee believes that any changes that are made to the enabling law must be driven by a desire to remove or replace inapplicable and ambiguous provisions. To be clear, the committee is prepared, if necessary, to craft amendments to GVB's enabling law that will position the agency and the entire industry for the 21st century. So with that, and based on our last roundtable, I asked participants if they could come back with concrete ideas, suggestions, feedback on what needs to be done to bring GVB's Enabling Act and bylaws into the 21st century. So if anyone would like to start, if we'd like to have the board or the management begin, it's up to the two of you.
we at management, of course, will do what we need to do, whatever laws are passed. I think that I don't believe, correct me if I'm wrong, Sonny and Jeff, that the board never discussed a position on this, right, from the board side? I think that's where this thing should come from, really, the board giving their input on there, because I think inherently it was the management's input already that formulated the BRCC. So I think that's, I know there's only two here now from the board, right?
Sorry, this is Jeff Jones from the Board of Directors. I think one of the challenges in doing that, I agree with what you're saying, one of the challenges in doing that is that the board can't actually discuss our position unless it's at an open meeting, and it would take probably 2 or 3 hours to go through this, you know. Whereas management, you guys can meet anytime, anywhere, and come up with a position, you know, because you're not governed by the open government law.
Actually, I did the last time we met. He was off island, so on his behalf, we presented a management perspective on some of the issues and some of the changes that might be desirable. I did allude to that at that time, that in fairness, the board really needs to weigh in as a collective body, because only Mr. Jones was here as an individual board member, not really reflective of the entire board. So I think we've, for the most part, presented a perspective from management, and to the president's point, it's probably a good idea to wait for a board collective position on this thing, on the issues. Because we can talk about some of the details at this point, but at the end of the day, it's really management's perspective and individual members of the board rather than the collective, position of the board. That's what you were saying, right?
Yeah, one board meeting could be set aside for that.
Yeah, my 2 cents is that, and to Jeff's point, it is difficult for the board to meet, to discuss. It's very difficult, you know, and don't get me wrong, I believe in this open government law and so forth, and it's been a big transition, a shift in how, from my experience in the past at GVB, and has been carried forward. There was a real, maybe sometimes abusive, but there was really a collaboration, more discussion going on by board members within committee or at board meetings, or just even board-to-board members. But it's, we've really been kind of handcuffed, if you will, and I speak personally, to discuss anything. So for us to get to chime in, board directors to chime in, you know, we'll have to go through the notification process. We have to go through the, make sure everything, I's are dotted, T's are crossed, and I guess have that meeting, then come up together with a position. In the past, it used to be the management carried forward the board's position for the Bureau. Now we have a position by management, and with no input just yet, except with your participation with the committee, but really I can't speak to it because I don't know what my fellow board members are feeling as well, so I can't speak to it. Individually I can, but I'm just sharing the change which causes a difficulty of communication. And I think that communication before, if you want to call it loose or what, that's what brought 1.6 million tourists to the island. Has always set records. It's because of that communication and collaboration. So now we're kind of operating somewhat in different silos. Here and there we get together, and again, don't take this as any criticism, but just in my observation as a board member, again, and seeing how we're transitioning, how the board is transitioning in how it operates. It's just a little more difficult.
I think what I was saying is that the 27th of this month, there's another chance for a board meeting, right? I think that board meeting should be devoted to the discussion on the position of this. nothing else. You have 2 or 3 hours to get it done. It's just that next board meeting should be the venue for discussion on what the position is. But it's really not that difficult. It's just an item on the board agenda.
Yeah, we could do that, or we could have a working session that's duly notified and just have a separate meeting, public notice, for a working session, rather than take a board meeting, because we're not, I mean, that might be something.
Absolutely, but it's not hard. It's 5 days, 6 days.
Yeah.
We can notice a working session for work.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. Specific to that.
Instead of a regular board meeting is what I'm saying. So I'm open to that.
Well, we can't suggest that. I think the board has to do it. This is,
Yeah, cannot.
we can leave it on, right?
Okay, all I was saying is that we can public notice a working session to discuss specifically the, enabling statute and the bylaws. That way, it doesn't have to be a regular board meeting, but it could be specifically a work session that could be publicly noticed.
It has to be initiated by the board, not us.
Yes, okay, so the earliest the board is meeting, for the record, is July 27th. So we hope that this discussion item can make it on your agenda. We do appreciate that some of the board members were here in the past and in other hearings to discuss your individual position, and that we can come back in the next roundtable to have a fuller picture of what the board would like represented. We also wanted to make clear that these hearings have been held and scheduled at different times so that we can also invite other stakeholders from the tourism industry, not just board members or the management of the Bureau, to give their input on how they see the Bureau moving forward. Okay.
If I may,
Senator Taitigui.
okay, the meeting that's anticipated for the 27th, you mentioned, Madam Chair, with regards to inviting other stakeholders, and I do realize that this would be something the board would talk about, but would you be also willing to bring other people outside the board to come in to have this conversation on the enabling legislation, or would you guys rather, are you looking at just discussing it amongst yourself, or allowing that input from the other business community in the tourist industry?
Well, I think if it's going to be a board's position, it needs to be discussed in the board. I think that.
Can you talk into the mic, please? Yeah, just
I think
bring
if
it
it's going to be
closer.
a board position, it probably needs to be just the board talking about it, maybe with some members, but 4 of the members on the board are representative of the membership, right? So that's the whole reason why they do it that way. Is there's a voice from the membership at the board. So I don't think it would be productive to have everybody in that working session. I think it should be just the board members, maybe the attorney for the GVB. So.
And for the record, to these roundtable hearings, and in the next roundtable hearings, we'll continue to invite. We invited the GHRA, we invited GTTA to give their input on this discussion, in addition to what the board has to offer.
I think they're willing. I think that what we're talking about gets very technical. And so because of the enabling legislation and the bylaws, you really have to study it to understand what the problems are. And so it's not just something that, I think they just want everybody to get along.
Yeah.
You know, I think
That's what we all want.
Also, what we did was requested actually that other legislation that address other issues that we submitted at the last roundtable be made available, because evidently it was not distributed to the.
Yeah, we just got it today.
you mean the bill that I introduced?
No,
No,
the
enabling?
substitute bill that
Yeah.
they came up with, management came up with a substitute bill.
A substitute bill?
Yeah,
Oh,
which-
A draft to submit from
Yeah.
testimony from the bill we had the public hearing on your bill, Senator Taitigui.
No, that's not what
No,
they're saying. They're saying
at
they...
the round table, I remember I submitted another bill,
Right.
and that actually reflected some refinements in,
Yeah.
various other issues associated with the legislation and the bylaws. So the board had not had a chance to see that because unbeknownst to me, I had asked that it be given to them, but they never got it. So we'll make sure that you get it.
Yeah.
You just got it today, though, right? Okay,
Jerry,
yeah.
the bill that I introduced, where you were here testifying,
Yeah.
there was a question that was asked by one of our colleagues, whether the board had an opinion on the bill, and they didn't have an opportunity to look at the bill that I introduced, but management has had the opportunity and was asked whether management supported the bill. And we really didn't get an answer from you. So I'm asking now, is
Well,
management supporting
Yeah,
the bill?
I thought I did answer that
Yeah.
because Senator Dueñas actually
Right, exactly. And he-
mentioned that, right?
yeah.
And so with respect to the bill, the two issues that I proffered would be helpful in terms of our support of the bill is the issue on financial disclosure and the cumulative voting.
And the voting, right?
Yeah, those are the two
Well-
things. The other issues associated with that other bill that was introduced
Right.
is just for
Okay.
discussion or, review as you see fit.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, I had the opportunity to listen in on the board meeting yesterday that you guys had. And when the bill came up, to discuss it, it seemed like nobody wanted to talk on it. In fact, they started laughing.
I did.
Yeah. Well, not just, it was Chairman Chu, and I think somebody was nudging him to actually take the time to discuss this. And it just seemed that the board was uninterested in addressing the bill. And then the comment with regards to financials, you were there at the public hearing, Mr. Jones, Director Jones. So, and you had made reference, and it was even quoted in the paper, that if there was a financial disclosure, that you would not want to sit on the board. Are you still in that position? Oh, turn on the mic. Yeah.
Yeah, it's still my position.
That's still your
Because
position.
I
Is
took
there
the-
anybody else on the board who feels the same way?
I don't know, but I took the position and ran for the seat under the understanding that it wasn't. So if it changes, then my decision to sit on the board will probably change too.
It'll probably change, yeah. Mr. Ada?
I mean, I haven't been through the financial disclosure, so I'm not sure how.
Well, we go through it all the time, and most board members who sit on boards do the same thing. So I think it's about,
I agree, but you enter knowing that.
Sorry?
You enter your job and your position knowing that in advance.
Right,
So,
exactly. So,
yeah.
no, nobody will fault you if you want to not want to sit on the board because their financials are there. But, so my question is to Mr. Ada, would you feel the same way?
Yeah, I feel the same way. I think, you signed the conflicts form, and I think that's again,
enough.
from
Yeah.
my view, that should be clear enough. And
Okay. Well, then,
to put out personal financials, I think is a bit much.
well, not when you're dealing with public funds. This comes from the people's taxpayer money, and it's important that we become very transparent, and for some people to have to divulge financials, I don't see why other people are not allowed to. But I think my concern was during hearing the meeting that you had yesterday was very discouraging. I mean, it was almost like you just blew it off like, no, it doesn't matter to us. So I hope that this meeting on the 27th, that you would also not only address both bylaws as well as the enabling legislation, but also the bill itself that's being introduced. Because regardless of the comment that was made, it's faster for us to do the bylaws than it is to do enabling legislation. And we can do it within three weeks to a month and change the law within that time. And
Enabling
we've been
legislation?
here for how long? Trying to, change bylaws. It's already been 2 months when we could get actually a bill that would help guide the board in moving forward in trying to mirror the enabling and the bylaws together. So that's just my, comment, and I just hope you guys start taking it more seriously. Listening to I didn't have a chance to see it video-wise, but
I think that was happening at the end of the meeting and people were leaving, and so it was like.
Oh, no, I was listening. I didn't hear the adjourn yet.
think
I didn't hear an
I thought it
adjourn.
came up at the very.
Yeah. Well, actually, it was brought up earlier. You
I
know,
had
in
to
the
leave.
hearing, in the board hearing was brought up earlier. The bill was brought up earlier. And then later on, toward the end, it was brought up again, but the meeting had not adjourned.
Yeah, I think,
Yeah.
but I think it was at the, if I remember, on the agenda, it was on the very end of the agenda. So it didn't have the time it should have had. I agree with that, so.
Okay.
But I've been here at all the roundtables, and I've participated, and I've provided the board with all of my testimony and all my analysis. So we should be able to arrive at a position.
Mr. Jones, are you like the legislature? Do you handle, I mean, because every board member has a duty, one with Japan market, one with destination management.
I'm with governance and
Governance.
administration.
Say it again?
Governance and administration
Oh,
committee.
okay.
So
Well, I commend you
the
for.
real exciting one.
Yeah. Well, the one that's most
There's no-
contentious.
My only trips are down to the legislature.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I have to commend you for showing up, you know, and coming and doing this part, because it's definitely not a fun one, you know, to do, and dealing with legislators, you know, so I commend you for even showing up. Thank you.
I do want to comment just basically on the enabling legislation. There's some, you know, and we'll get into it more. There's some basic, I think, problems with enabling legislation that even if you change the bylaws, you're still going to have issues. And that's with the makeup of the board, how it's designated, you know, how it's elected. We talked about the election. We agree that there's some problems with the way it's elected, you know. So also on the votes, who are the members? Are the members companies or are the members individuals? Because that's not even clear in the legislation. Is it a company that has a membership, or is it actual individual has a membership?
I think it even goes further than that. I think it starts at the very beginning to find out if it's a public corporation and a nonprofit. If you look at GITA, the way that's set up, and you look at any other, you know, autonomous agencies, the definition under their title as a not-for-profit has to be addressed, because GITA makes money, and they're not-for-profit. GVB, you bring in money through your membership fees, not-for-profit. So I think, you know, the very umbrella of everything needs to address that correctly, number one. Number two, I think there was something else that was brought up during the meeting yesterday when Director Rhodes, you know, was asking for a meeting and going to the staff of GVB requesting for a meeting. Now, I know my, you know, as a former deputy general manager, that directors are not allowed to approach employees of GVB, that anything that needs to be requested goes through the general manager. And it's obvious that, you know, there's, you know, Mary brought up some good points, you know, to fast track it, but yet, you know, which one do you listen to? And then that is as simple as just making it clear to Mr. I want to say president, but that's not even in the bylaws, saying president, or even in the enabling legislation, there's no such thing as president, it's general manager. You know, has that changed? But yet you guys are calling him president, you know. So certain things like that, you need to move forward. The board needs to move forward in what they're deciding. But simple things like this, you know, making it clear to the board right now, I don't know how you're going to do that. I mean, I heard you try to explain to Ms. Director Rhodes the process. Yes. So maybe there's something that you guys can put together, you know, while you're doing this other stuff and marrying the two, enabling and the...
Well, I think we had a, you know, board orientation and discussion. We've done all that. So I think everybody knows the rules of engagement. I think she was frustrated because she wasn't getting any response through whatever her methods were. She wasn't getting an answer. And so I think she was just trying to...
Yes. And write something down. Don't change your request every other day.
Okay, Senator Lujan?
Yeah, thank you very much, Madam Chair. Yeah, you know, this situation, actually, I brought this up, and maybe you guys can answer this as well. You know this better than I do. That you guys had, because the president's not listening. I need to get the president's attention. GM's attention. Okay. Oh, you're, okay. It was her that gave you a headache, not me.
I'm sorry.
Hurry up, okay. I think the best one that can answer this question would be yourselves, because I posed to the Attorney General this morning, and I think what brought this up as well in regards to statute versus bylaws is that your legal counsel had again asked, or actually the board had asked for a review in regards to statute versus bylaws in this past year. And in that being done, I think he came up with that because of the review, that the way the board was operating was violating statute. That being said, if I'm not mistaken, there was a BRCC investigation as well, right? That was referred also to the Attorney General's office and the Office of Public Accountability. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
And ethics.
Okay. And I asked that question this morning during a budget hearing this morning with the Attorney General, because at this point, you're talking about a meeting that was going to take place on the 27th board meeting. And that's fine, or working sessions to move on and how you're going to stand in regards to statute and bylaws and everything. And my concern about at this point is, and I asked the Attorney General this question, whether his review of the BRCC report was done. And his answer this morning is that that particular report was referred to criminal investigation. Now, I don't know whether the criminal investigation unit and civil unit are the same in disclosures. Now, whether or not the criminal investigative side of the Attorney General, whether or not they'll give you a finding because it's referred to them, or whether or not they'll go, if there was a wrongdoing, if they'll go straight to an indictment. I don't know. I don't know how that works.
I don't either.
So in moving forward to try to, say, formulate an opinion on statute versus bylaws, because I don't know, if the Attorney General moves forward and there's a finding, I don't think he'll say, hey, we find that there might be this, because if there's a finding of a criminal doing, I think he'll move straight to an indictment. I don't know that. That I don't know. I have no idea how that works. I have no idea how that works. But if that happens, I'm saying we have to slow down in formulating how to move forward, waiting to see whether a wrong or things were done right or wrong. And I said this morning, if things are good, we need to move forward with status quo. That's what I said to the Attorney General. I said,
Status quo?
with the way things, if nothing was wrong, if the findings were nothing.
Or you can correct it, what we're doing.
Oh, yeah. But otherwise, if there's some criminality involved, it's a different story.
Could I put a little bit of
Sure.
context in that, Senator? When we created the business risk BRCC committee, and I think Jeff was also a part of that at the very beginning, the goal was to do nothing more than identify incongruities between the enabling statute and the bylaws, and to come to some strategy on resolving that. That was the basic goal originally set forth. What happened when we were doing that is we did uncover problematic issues that led to his request that run it down and see where it goes. And that's what happened on the BRCC. And at the time, we were very busy trying to get us back on track post-COVID. We didn't want to deal with any distractions. And so he said, basically, the best thing to do is just refer it to the people most qualified to handle this matter, which was the AG, the OPA, and the Ethics Commission. And that, in fact, is what happened. It took on a kind of a life of its own because it became more public than we had originally intended it to be. Basically, right? Yeah. So that's how we ended up to where it is right now.
And again, that's part of what I'm saying is with this. I don't know, again, I don't know how the Attorney General's office works in regards to that because it's not, you know, if it was referred, as the Attorney General said, it was referred to our Criminal Investigation Division, whether or not you're going to get an answer, you know, whether you're going to get an answer or not. And I don't think you'll get an answer as, yes, there's criminal activity happening and therefore you have to correct it, because the toughest Attorney General on Guam will go straight to whatever needs to be done at this point. So that's what I'm saying. I don't know how that works, and I'm sure they're not going to reveal how that works. And so in moving forward, we can make the changes and all that. But if the changes, again, that we make will allow for activities to continue that may get people in situations that they don't want to be in, we don't want to go down that road, right? And like you said, as you said, the intent wasn't what happened. The intent was to make the change, or again, merge the two. And in your findings, you happen upon that. And so it was referred to, again, the division that's in charge of that. So, you know, I wish I had a better answer, and a better way to state this, other than we can move forward, we can make the changes, but I guess the ultimate situation, the ultimate answer will be whether or not the Attorney General will say, no, it's a clean bill of health, which is good, which is great, or just the opposite. And if just the opposite occurs, and we're working with the same set of rules and bylaws, again, board members and management may get themselves into the same situation that we don't want them to be in. Same predicament. Do you agree with that? I mean, yeah. So, I mean, I don't have the answers. I don't have the answers.
So what, did he give you any inkling whether he's going to?
Well, I mean, I think what I'm going to do, and I hope that you would do the same thing, because we keep having roundtables, and we need to fix, if something is broken, we need to fix it, okay? And so I think maybe I will write a letter to the Attorney General's office and say, you know, and I told him as much this morning, we want to move on. We're taking corrective actions, corrective measures, but whether those measures or actions are the right measures, right actions to correct things, will be based on whatever actions or inactions are taken by either the OPA, AG, and you say the ethics?
Yeah. The central issues associated with that particular referral, however, really doesn't impact the two issues that we've talked about here on disclosure and cumulative voting. I mean, those issues that you're referring to is separate and apart from having any impact really to.
But it,
the
do-
changes.
but it does involve conflict of interest.
It does. It does, and that the bill addresses that.
And it's easier to see.
And what I'm, and see, what I'm getting to Dr. Paris is this. We already have, I mean, it's already mandated that board members submit, yes, their interest, financial interest, or interests. And in your findings, I guess, in your findings of the BRCC, you had found that there have been conflicting interests. It appears as a, yeah. So something you have already in place to prevent that did not prevent that. General Manager?
No, go ahead.
Okay, but one of the things I wanted to mention is, even if the accusations come back true, it has no impact, in, as far as I understand, on how the bylaws and the neighborhood legislation need to be harmonized. That was a separate issue that they.
No, I know that's what he said,
So I don't think we need to wait.
but what I'm saying is in disclosures, what has already been disclosed, or what you're supposed to disclose, your conflicts, whatever conflicts are, what the findings came with, or supposedly the findings came up with, were there conflicting interests. So something that's already in statute that has to be revealed has been violated. Am I correct? You guys did the investigation. It would appear that way, right? Yeah. And so that's what I'm saying. Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. Something we already have in statute that is supposed to be done or can't be done, in the findings show that what you're not supposed to do was violated. So I wish I had the answer. I don't know.
Under the current disclosure requirements, even what is accused should have been disclosed. Not even under a, you know what I'm saying? Under the current disclosure requirements for boards, there should have been a recusal when they were talking about any voting towards funding for any organization that they were a part of.
Mm-hmm.
So additional financial disclosure wouldn't change that, because they already need to disclose.
I
Under the
disagree.
existing-
I totally disagree.
Under the existing disclosure requirements.
I understand in your existing, which is very limited to what the people can see, but when you put a full disclosure out there in financials, people will think twice when they start to make any decision or decide to vote on anything, because they are basically out there for the public to review. So, and, knowingly that whoever, is the accusations being made about this one individual, it would be clear, how much income this person would get, and where it's coming from. So it does go hand in hand.
If I was a board member, when Mr. Chu, Sonny, correct me if I'm wrong, when he made a motion to stop meeting until we make the bylaws congruent with the laws of Guam, we came up with the bylaws that would make it congruent. We almost came to the point of voting for that second amended bylaws. If that had been done, we could be amending the GVB law right now, concern ourselves. A lot of these things would have gone away if the board, the membership just adopted the second bylaws. And let's move forward with the congruency. And then a lot of this stuff then keeps carrying on right now with the AG and everything, because nobody wants to adopt the second bylaws. Adopt that, and then let's work with the enabling legislation. I think that's what I would do.
Yeah, but if I recall it, not all the amended issues were agreeable, were necessarily agreeable, and that's why there was, I mean, you vote for it, you vote for everything. And I think there are a few issues in there, maybe Jeff.
Yeah, that's what we need to try to.
Yes, but at least discuss it and amend it and get to amending the most egregious ones.
So the board needs to decide if they're willing to do a piecemeal approach, because that would be piecemeal.
Well, it's not the board,
It would
it's
be-
the membership.
I know, but the board needs to decide if, because we ultimately got to come up with a position.
Yeah, but I think nobody's ever brought it to the membership. You
Well,
were
we
going to
tried.
make the motion there, that one meeting, right?
We tried, but we didn't have a quorum.
Yeah, but you were going to make the amendment. So that's where we should bring it over and discuss it there and come up with the congruency. And then that will take away a lot of these headaches right now.
Well, either the membership has to vote on it, or the membership has to authorize the board.
Authorize the board, yes.
So
So
it may be
either way-
easier for the membership to authorize the board.
But if I was on the board, that's what I would push for.
Governor-
Adopt something that
Yeah.
makes it more congruent than
this-
what it is now.
Governor, is the second bylaws that you guys were talking about, was that crafted out 2013? 2013. Okay, because yeah, okay, because we have a copy where all the board members have signed off.
Yeah, that was the board members that were on the board then, but that bylaws doesn't jive with that doesn't harmonize with the enabling
that's the-
legislation.
that's
That's the one that needs to be changed.
That's the first bylaws.
Second.
Second.
This is second.
Bylaws, not the- Yeah, the third one hasn't been adopted. But
So how often do you anticipate to change the bylaws?
what?
Because the board members at this point all agreed.
Actually,
There's
the,
two ways, just quickly. It's the membership that has to adopt it. Or
Okay.
the membership can give the board of directors authority to adopt it. I think they were given the authority on the second one, right? To adopt it. Yeah, it must have been that way.
It must because they all signed off on it, yeah.
well,
But if they adopt the third amended bylaws, a lot of this thing would go away.
actually, what happened was for the third amended bylaws, and what we were talking about with Jeff earlier, is that the bylaws were changed so that it is in alignment, like, like a glove with the statute, so that the bylaws are in fact the enabling statute. That's what the third bylaws, because it was felt that it was the fastest way to get congruity while we work on other issues that the board might want to. That was the reason for that.
Okay.
But we didn't have a quorum. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so obviously the board then has not met regarding the updated.
We all have it, we've read it. The board, it's been distributed to the board, the membership, everybody.
But it
So it's
hasn't,
just a
hasn't really
matter
been
of
discussed, right? Or-
Action.
Yeah, action, yeah.
Well, it was supposed to be voted on at a meeting, we didn't have a quorum.
Okay,
So
okay,
that was back in January.
January 10th, he was supposed to make the
Okay.
motion to accept.
Okay.
There was no
Yes.
But just clarification, so Jeff, the membership needs to meet and vote that the board handle it?
Either one, they either need to vote on the bylaws and accept them, or they need to vote on the board, making the,
Authorize-
authorize the board
yes.
to
Yeah.
make the decision.
But then let me ask, and again, fresh my memory, then what was presented, the amended, not everything
Right,
was acceptable, but who submitted that?
It was submitted by management.
Okay.
Yeah,
He was supposed to, on the January 10th meeting, make a motion to the members. Members could have discussed it there and made their own amendments there to.
Right. We never got to that point.
so my suggestion is then, I mean, again, it's up to the board of management, is that, I guess you set aside meetings to talk about that so we can move on, and so we know how to move on. We'll take your lead.
We just need to meet on it with the attorney, so the attorney can make the necessary changes, because there's still some things the board's not agreeable to, you know?
So can we agree to that, that maybe by the next roundtable that
You might
we're
not
getting
agree
closer
to
to?
it, but if you don't agree, it could still be incongruent then, if it's.
Well, no, the part that we didn't agree upon was the fact that the board has no authority over the budget
No,
and
no, that's
approval.
not exactly what it says. It says that
It's
The-
very,
the-
very
The
vague.
board and the management work a budget, and if we disagree, that budget will still go to the governor, because ultimately she's the one that sends it to the
Yeah,
legislature.
but the enabling legislation still says that the board is responsible for the finances.
Because of the law, because that's what the law says now. So that law would have to be amended later then to coincide with what you want.
Anyhow,
That's what it is.
that's why we haven't got an agreement.
Yeah, no, I mean, no, it's,
That's why we have to discuss
you know, and I tell you, it's critical for us to move forward because we're working on the budget now.
I agree.
We're definitely working on the budget now, so it's critical. So again, I can't tell the board what to do, but I think it's in the best interest of the board and management to set some meeting aside to make sure you have quorum to discuss this because, you know, down the line, if we correct things and it's not in concert with, you know, I mean,
Right.
we want to take we want you guys to take the lead.
If I may, just, I mean, I think part of the delay has been that the board is kind of getting used to what we can do, what we can't do. And then we are limited. We're always searching for a quorum.
Sure.
Because we still have appointees. The governor still needs to have 2 appointees to the board. And I think we still have 1. You guys still have to ratify 1 or confirm 1 more.
Yes, we have one
So we struggle
confirmation
with
hearing
it.
coming up, and we have, the speaker still has to appoint one.
Yeah. No, so I'm glad about what's being said today, and I'm glad management, we're here on the board side, that we just need to meet.
Sure.
But it's been just kind of,
Yeah.
you know, hobbling along and.
Sure, no, because that's what we're doing.
Yeah.
And a decision is going to be made.
Yeah.
And it may not be in concert with, it may not be, I mean, maybe just off concert, really. So we want, you know, this is your guys' entity, and we rather you you guys take the lead, and we're the supporting, you know, we support that. But if not, I know members of the body, they want to move forward, and they're going to correct it if you guys don't correct yourselves.
Okay.
Yeah, and I
Right?
think if
Yeah.
the board and management didn't get along, then we will intervene very quickly.
Our hour is almost up, but I want to make sure we give Senator Brown a chance to comment or ask any questions for the roundtable before we wrap it up.
I don't have a lot to add. I think just, you know, from my perspective, I think we all want to see resolution and we all want to move forward, and we're hopeful, you know, if the board and the management can come up with a joint recommendation. We just want to smooth this over and I think move on so we can focus on the key things that we need to do. So I'm hopeful that we can get there.
We'll put it on the agenda for the next board meeting. We'll make sure that it's discussed. Yeah.
Yes, okay, so,
Yeah, we will. Plus also the publication requirement on,
yes, so we look forward to your next board meeting, July 27th, to include this agenda item, and then we will circle back to have hopefully one of our final roundtables to clean all of this up and move forward. So I'd like to thank again GVB, the board, the management team for being here today, 2 days in a row. Lots of discussion about tourism, but I think really necessary right now for us to be able to work together and to get this done. So Sujus Masi, everyone, and this meeting is adjourned. The time now is 3:52 p.m.